might put an end to a lot of the little fracases that we're having amongst ourselves and trying to eat up and destroy ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for this very long session and for staying in tune. I'm beginning to the dream is to have a prosperous nation and a prosperous people who can be anything that they want to be within the confines of their ability. We need to have a Nigerian dream that will unite us instead of having separate interests that divide us. Yes, we may be culturally different and all that, but what is the Nigerian dream? A strong Nigeria where everybody has a voice, where everybody's voice is heard, where everybody can aspire to greatness and contribute their own quota to the realm of Nigeria, where we can be proud Nigerians and say we're men of integrity and we're men of stature and strength. That should be the Nigerian dream, a prosperous Nigeria with prosperous individuals who can aspire to become anything without knowing anybody by the force of their and the tenacity of their competence and their capabilities, where the nation provides an even playing field for everybody to contribute their own quota to the development of Nigeria and the African continent. That should be the Nigerian dream, which we all should probably pursue. And that might put an end to a lot of the little fracases that we're having amongst ourselves and trying to eat up and destroy ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for this very long session and for staying in tune. I'm beginning to think we may need to repeat it at some stage where we can have another conversation about Nigeria and then take as many of the questions that people want to throw at us as is available. I think the management team will discuss it and see when it's possible to have another edition of this. But I want to thank everybody for listening to me patiently and for your kind words thus far. The dream is to have a prosperous nation and a prosperous people who can be anything that they want to be within the confines of their ability. We need to have a Nigerian dream that will unite us instead of having separate interests that divide us. Yes, we may be culturally different and all that, but what is the Nigerian dream? A strong Nigeria where everybody has a voice, where everybody's voice is heard, where everybody can aspire to greatness and contribute their own quota to the realm of Nigeria, where we can be proud Nigerians and say we're men of integrity and we're men of stature and strength. That should be the Nigerian dream, a prosperous Nigeria with prosperous individuals who can aspire to become anything without knowing anybody by the force of their and the tenacity of their competence and their capabilities, where the nation provides an even playing field for everybody to contribute their own quota to the development of Nigeria and the African continent. That should be the Nigerian dream, which we all should probably pursue. And that might put an end to a lot of the little fracases that we're having amongst ourselves and trying to eat up and destroy ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for this very long session and for staying in tune. I'm beginning to
Good evening, eh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Itwai Godalo, and I'm happy to be. This today's program is going to be very, very interesting, very, very explosive, very, very outstanding, and we have one of Nigeria's biggest patriots here to speak to us on Nigeria, our nation, Nigeria, our nation, Nigeria. So let's hear the national anthem. To speak on our nation, Nigeria, and see in what direction Nigeria is truly growing or going. So we're trying to see if there's really any hope, any direction, and we want to see how we can redefine Nigeria, and see where we're in Nigeria. Please welcome with me a gentleman that really needs no introduction, Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, Senior Advocate for Nigeria, Principal Partner, Falana and Falana Chambers, my very good friend and brother, extremely knowledgeable, extremely patriotic, extremely concerned about Nigeria and the direction in which Nigeria is going. Mr. Falana, thank you so much. I know you are going through a lot of trouble to be on the platform today, but I want to thank you and salute your patriotism for joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Falana. I'm going to throw you into the deep end straight away, and for you to really analyze years after, where is Nigeria with the present APC government? Which direction are we going? How well have we done? And what do you think the situation or the prognosis for the future is? How well have we done? Which direction are we going? And what is the prognosis for the future? Mr. Falana, please. Mr. Falana, please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. You are muted, so we can't hear you. Olu, maybe you people are not allowing him to unmute.
He's able to unmute.
Eh?
He can unmute.
But he's speaking and he's probably not aware that he's not. He's using two devices. Okay. Mr. Falana, my brother, please unmute yourself.
He's trying to re-enter the room. We just admitted him again. So maybe he's rejoining.
He's in on one device. Is there nobody with him there that can assist him to unmute?
No. He's on
Yes, I'm okay now.
device
I'm joining
now.
you. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, all right. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Please unmute yourself and go ahead. The floor is yours. My question was, where are we in Nigeria 2 years into
Is
the
the floor
present
mine?
administration? How are we doing? What stage
Hello?
are we in? And what's the prognosis for the future?
Yeah. Well, if we are going to project into the future, we need to find out where we are coming from or where we are before we can conveniently
Where are we
project into
now as a nation 2 years into this administration? What's the prognosis and what is the direction of the future? What does the future look like?
Yes. Yeah. I think if we are going to address this,
I think your
very well.
connection is a bit weak.
All right. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Wow. Can you hear me at all?
Yes, sir, we can.
Oh, great. I am saying that since 1960, that we have obtained the country's almost succeeding government been worse than previous. Way that Nigeria have almost lost confidence in governance. The campaigning vigorously against Jonathan's administration on the ground that it was weak, it was clueless, it was unable to address any of the problems confronting the country. Some of us did one at the material time. Then there was no difference between 6 and half a dozen in terms of ideological commitment, in terms of the preparedness to defend the interests of the nation. Unfortunately, Nigerians didn't listen to us. They made their choice. And at the end of 8 years, instead of things getting better, they got worse. None of the problems confronting the country, the energy crisis, crisis in the educational sector, in the health sector, and general underdevelopment, none of them was addressed. Of course, we had another round of elections whereby the Bola Tinubu campaign was saying he could do it better than the administration. Controversy generated in the course of the election. The tribunals and the courts ruled that the APC candidate won the election. But since then, in fact, at the inauguration speech, when the president had not looked at the books, he pronounced that fuel subsidy was gone. As soon as the government was going to flood the naira, and as I did point out, because I had the case in court then, and there's no way you can float the currency of an import-oriented economy. You are going to play into the hands of foreign nations that have trading relationship with us. A country that imports virtually everything. You're not going to gain by floating your currency and devaluing your currency. The case is in court. The central bank under the current regime has challenged my local standby. What is your interest that is greater than that of other Nigerians in the way and manner we mess up the currency? So whereas this government took up, and I think it was 450 naira to $1. Today, it is about $1,600. I mean, a naira to $1. Those of you are perhaps the elite may not even appreciate the collapse of the national currency unless you travel to some of the neighboring countries like Benin Republic, where the naira to the city in a very disgraceful manner. It is now 3 naira to a city. I mean, no, that's Ghana. I'm talking of Cotonou. You know, their currency now exchanges for 3 naira. And it's so sad for us because that was not the situation a few years back. So instead of things getting better, they are getting worse. And we are told to renew hope in the administration, but we know where the problems are. Once you devalue the currency of a country, you are going to promote poverty because you are not exporting goods. You are importing goods to your country. Secondly, those who claim that the naira is overvalued have not convinced Nigeria how they came about their evaluation other than to destroy the country. So the regime has embraced neoliberal economic policies, trade liberalization, privatization of public assets, floating of your currency. At the end of the day, there is no way you can promote local industrialization. There is no way you can have industrialization without addressing the energy sector. So what we have under this regime is incremental, regular increases in electricity tariffs. And the more these tariffs are imposed on Nigeria, the more darkness that is generated. So at the end of the day, Nigerians must come together. Nigerians must challenge the government of the day with respect to looking for genuine solutions to the problem. I was in a forum 2 days ago. The tax man, Mr. Oyedele, came to address physically challenged people. And even though I was there to listen, but I was then challenged to comment on the tax reforms. And I made it clear, I have read the tax reforms. For me, they are like scratching the surface of a problem. We're not addressing taxation, which is meant to promote social justice in a country. You don't ask the poor to pay taxes. You tax the rich to promote some kind of economic equilibrium. But what we have in Nigeria is that the poor are paying heavily, whereas the tax reforms or the promoters of the tax reforms claim, if you earn less than 800,000 naira or 1 million naira, you are going to have these incentives and the rest of them. But as the government was claiming that certain Nigerians, were going to be exempted from payment of taxes, the telecom companies, the central bank, and others are imposing taxes on Nigerians. The electricity companies are also going to increase their tariffs very soon. So the point I'm making therefore is that Nigerians must not accept the excuse of the government or the claim of the government that there is no alternative to the ongoing economic. That the government is claiming that if President Tinubu says this has been the policy of the government since 1986, when region imposed structural adjustment program, even when Nigerians have voted plan the economy of Nigeria in a way that the happiness of our people will be promoted and not the poverty of our people, which is what is going on. So when the economist says there are no alternatives to certain economic programs or policies, I mean, it's born out of arrogance of power, because there are alternatives to all economic programs. And that is why economists say, ceteris paribus, in other words, all things being equal. But because all things are never equal, so you must give room for alternatives, you must promote debates, and let the best interests of the country prevail. But once you say arrogantly that the policies that have been implemented for over 40 years, would be, would generate employment, will promote happiness in the country. And we have to be patient all the time. And this is what every regime says. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. Please just continue to bear with us. But why are they asking the people to tighten their bets? Why the people have been asked to make huge sacrifice? The people in power are living a life of luxury. They are living a life of, prodigality. And in a way that when you see public officers in Nigeria, top public officers in Nigeria, when the president moves around or governors are moving around, you cannot say this is a poverty-stricken country. When you look at the long, convoy of vehicles, so you can't say this country suffers from poverty. If you also look at the way public officers travel abroad at the expense of the country, because they are claiming extra codes that runs to thousands of dollars, and at the end of the day, millions of naira. You ask yourself, what are these guys going to do abroad, right? Now you look at, just imagine, last year workers went on strike to force the regime to adopt a new a minimum wage of 70,000 naira. Again, the devaluation of the currency has made a mockery of the minimum wage. You have a situation whereby a bag of rice in many parts of the country was sells for about 100,000 naira. That means, without any debate, that rice has been banned from the menu of the majority of Nigerians. So we must look at it. And when we are discussing the crisis of poverty in our country, those of us who are members of the elite, those of us who are privileged, must not forget that there are millions of our people who go to bed, hungry every day. And so we must therefore take advantage of fora and opportunities of this nature to look at options that are available for the development of a country. And some of them You really do not need to govern this country. It's not rocket science. For instance, we're talking of the oil and gas produced by the Niger Delta region or the oil producing communities in our country. What has happened is that the oil and gas resources of our country are taken by the government. Oil blocks are then distributed to individuals who, without contributing a dime or a kobo, will simply sell the licenses and become instant billionaires. As I said 2 days ago, those were the guys, and I think one of them mentioned it, that this man who we are honoring today, General Ibrahim Babangida, gave us oil blocks. One of them was not even as, and one of them said, there's none of us here that was not made by this man. Right? And in other words, he took advantage of his military rulership of the country, which is by force, to take over the resources of our country and then distributed them to his friends, who then gathered a couple of days ago to donate billions to him. Now you also have what they call privatization, whereby public assets of our country again are captured militarily by force, distributed to a few people in what they call privatization. These assets are given out to them at giveaway prices or outright gifts. They are not asked to pay anything. At the end of the day, a few people have taken the assets of the country. They become super rich, while poverty is increasing with respect to the generality of our people. And I have said, going by the provisions of the Constitution, particularly Section 44, subsection 3, states simply that the mineral and oil resources of our country, gas, all of them, will be taken over by the federal government, by the government of the federation. The revenue generated by such resources, assets, will go to the federation account, where the revenue will be distributed in line with the revenue allocation formula of the country. So I am therefore submitting that our country has no business with poverty. We're talking of mineral resources. What of solid minerals? We're talking of oil and gas. What of solid minerals like gold and the rest of them, which are found in abundance in the country? Again, the rich are given licenses, not necessarily to mine them, to look for those who will mine them. Again, just like those who are given oil blocks, those who are also given licenses to mine solid minerals in our country also smile to the banks at the expense of the Nigerian people. So I'm therefore suggesting that the government would need to take over the resources of our country. Why should state governments or local governments say they are unable to pay salaries and take care of the interests of our people? While a few people are giving oil blocks not distributed between the federal government and the local government, state government as well as local government. Secondly, why are you selling the assets of the country to a few people? So for me, these are the issues that we need to address.
Mr. Falana, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
If I can just get you to hold your breath a second there and then ask you this very specific question.
Yeah.
We know the challenges with Nigeria, the difficulties that we have suffered these last few years.
Yeah.
How do we redefine Nigeria? How do we
Yeah.
redefine Nigeria? What can the average Nigerian do now to ensure that we get good governance or the right kind of government that we want? And what do we do in the future to make sure that Nigeria is properly governed? So what would you do now? What do you think we should do now? What would you do now? What can the average Nigerian man do now to ensure that we get the right kind of governance that we need at this appropriate time or in the nearest possible future? What do you think?
Well, thank you very much, Pastor. This will be my last intervention because my flight will take off any moment from now. Thank you. Yeah, my opinion is that we need to get organized, forums or fora of this nature, enlighten ourselves, let our people know the challenges facing the country, and that we must win back our people. We must let them know that it is doable for us, that we can rediscover our country. So in other words, we need to educate ourselves, we need to enlighten ourselves, we need to position ourselves, we need to challenge the people in power, and not just talk about the budget Thanksgiving is celebrated in respect of the autonomy of local government. Why is it that up to now, the fund, the allocation of local government is not paid to them directly as enjoined by the Supreme Court? So the point I'm making therefore is that we do not need to wait for 2027. We should start today to begin to ask questions, to interrogate those who are in power, to make them accountable. And when we do that, we're also preparing ourselves for the leadership of our country. And I'm saying specifically, it is now, we can start with 2025. The media have debated the budget of the federal government. Lagos in particular, where many of the listeners are gathered, we must begin now to discuss the budget of Lagos State, which is said to be the 5th largest economy in Africa. In each of our states too, we must get a copy of the budget, gather to discuss the budget and discuss development in our country. Now, for those who want to contest election, this is the time to begin again to fight against the monetization, increasing monetization of the of votes, of
Apologies for the break in service. Our guest did mention that he was about to board his flight, so maybe that's why there is issues with
Yeah, I think it was in the airport. That's why there are those interruptions. But what we're going to do is to discuss amongst ourselves what he has spoken about, and then see how we can bring him back on again in the nearest future for us to really drill down deeper into the things we're asking. Okay? So, Jumoke, over to you. You and Sonny, please.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we'll continue the conversation. Pastor Sonny, do you have any?
Okay. It's just to allow people to get ready with their questions now. And they want to contribute. I think Nigeria can be looked at from different dimensions. All right, there are several things we need to look at, several missteps if we want to look at it. There are political missteps that have happened in the past. I can see Professor Olajide, lack of effective governance, ethics and religious tension that have overtaken the country, electoral irregularities. If you go to the social space, there's inadequate education system, poor funding, inadequate infrastructure, insufficient qualified teachers, human capital resources, all kinds of things. Healthcare is in shambles, security is not there, inequality in the system, poverty all over the place. If you look at the security situation, the same thing. So there are so many areas. And over the years, every government, when they are campaigning, they promise to make things better. Okay, so, but when they get in, they make it worse and tell us that it must get worse or get bad before it gets better. So my question to them is, I was buying a bag of rice for 30,000, but when you came in, due to your policies, it increased to 100,000. So paint a picture for me. When it gets better, will it come back to 30,000 or will it come below 30,000? Or will you now pay me 5 times what I used to earn for me to be able to afford that bag of rice you have pushed from 30,000 to 100,000 so that I can afford it? It's simple logic and simple mathematics.
Please, I can't hear anything again.
All right. Can you all hear me still?
We can hear you.
All right. Maybe
yes, sir, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
All right. So I think when we engage with our people, the simple question to ask them is to take a snapshot of where you were. So if we were to ask any of you on this platform today, is your life better today than it was 2 years ago when Bola Tinubu took over? Maybe majority of us will say no. If you obviously have made money, if you have contact in government and all those kind of stuff. So the real question really is redefining Nigeria. And recently, Babangida gathered a couple of his friends together in Abuja, trying to redefine the history that many of us were leaving witnesses to. He really didn't apologize. He just said he takes responsibility, which he has said over time. Why did you annul the election? It was that Babangida's transition that has pushed Nigeria to where we are today up till now. Abiola will have done his 8 years very shortly between 1993 and 2001. He will have been over and Nigeria will have moved forward. So the question for us really, and when I hear people like Falana, I hope he joins us again, what do we need to do? We have a few ideas. I think Nigerians, we don't put enough pressure on our leaders. We rise up a bit and we go back to sleep. If we say Occupy National Assembly, people will begin to say, what is a kit bag? Build a kit bag, put toothpaste, put soap, put everything, carry it there. People will be supplying food. 1 million Nigeria will stay there. Day one, we'll be supplying them buns and boli and akara and dodo and everything. For as long as they are not ready to change things, we will occupy that place. If police want to carry us, they will carry 100,000 today. Tomorrow, they carry another 100,000. Their jails will be full. We are more than them. But who will lead this march? Because if we go down this democracy path, to be honest, I don't know where we are going to get to. These guys have the money, they have the power. They are planning for not only 2027, they're already planning for 2031. El-Rufai was accusing the national security man that he wants to get him out because he wants to be president in 2031. So they're already planning for that. And do these people really want to make the country better? I don't think so. So we have to organize. And I know we've been saying this for a long time. But for me, really, I think a radical organization is what we probably need. All this gentle engagement, a radical one that doesn't involve us being violent, but just making ourselves available as a nuisance to paralyze governance until they necessarily do what we want. The Egyptians did it, and they got a change of government. Yes, many of us are working, and so we can't put the time. The guys that are not working will need money to mobilize them to go and do this kind of demonstration, you know. So where does that leave us? I think that's the kind of conversation we should be having. Before Falana joins us, I just thought I should put a few of these things out there. I can see a few hands up. We will take more people to contribute to this topic and how we can get along with this particular discussion, how we can redefine where we are and force our government, whether states, local government, or federal, to necessarily do what we want, not what they want to do. Because if we continue in this trajectory, we will just be talking for the next 8 years, the next 12 years, until we leave the scene, and the children that don't know the history of Nigeria will come on, and everybody is leaving the country. So, Jumoke, I hand over to you. Let's hear contributions from other spaces, but more like, what do we need to do? I think that's what we need to hear. Thank you very much.
I like the tone that you've set,
Yeah.
in the sense that we as the citizens, what
Yeah.
are we empowered to do?
Yeah.
And we have to understand what that power is. I think for so long, we relegate our authority to the rulers, and I don't call them leaders. We've had this conversation on this platform so many times that it is the wrong word for us to call them leaders, because they are not leaders, they are rulers. And I think we need to empower ourselves to understand the difference between rulership and leadership, and what we as individual citizens, what we have the power to do within our own sphere of influence, and start to do it. So, like you said, our conversation today should be towards those reforms, the strategy to empower ourselves to be able to effect changes, because we've had conversation about everything that is wrong with Nigeria. I would say that even my great-grandchildren unborn know the challenges with Nigeria, but what is the way forward? How do we begin to redefine, whether it is social and cultural context, whether it is with the vision for Nigeria? I think we played this Mr. President's The Nigerian Dream. And I think every Nigerian should really think about that Nigerian dream, and we should start working towards that Nigerian dream. So we have a few hands up. Maybe we can start taking those, but again, it should be towards the context that you have outlined. What do we as citizens do to redefine Nigeria and to take back Nigeria, to break this stranglehold? Okay. So we have Professor Olajide Olagunju. Please go ahead and ask your question or your comment.
Thank you. I think you are right that Pastor Enebi has charted where we should be looking at in terms of where there's a need for change, there's a need for leadership for that change, and there's a need for organization for the leadership involved to be organized. But we need to let ourselves know that now is the elite turn, the cross-section of the Nigerian elite, to take that leadership and do what they need to do. But to warn ourselves that if we don't do it, the Maos will come up. Mao was not an elite, he was a peasant. He was a peasant. And so if we refuse to take leadership, then the people that will be maybe more rude and more violent will take over. Now, so that is, so you are right, there's a need for us to take action. Now, my challenge is not that. My challenge is what has to be done. Where are we going? What do we need to do? Because if we don't, even if the peasants take over, we'll get back to where we are coming from. It's interesting that Falana said there's been progressive degeneration of the economy of the country from the 1960s to now. Now that's a clue. He's giving us a clue here, but of course he did not correctly analyze where the challenge is. Why are we getting worse and worse and worse? And the only way to understand is that those who are 50, 60 now will know that the economy of Nigeria 50 years ago, 60 years ago is not what it is now. And so you need to ask yourself, what happened? And I know that a lot of us want to shy away from that question and blame his leaders. But that's playing the ostrich. For me, what is very clear is that there was a set of laws that govern the leadership of Nigeria from mid-50s to 69 specifically. Very specific laws. And that is why the economy then is better than what it is now. And the law was that we should do what is against what Falana is saying now. Falana is supporting the idea of federal government seizure of minerals, including oil, and sharing. Now, that is what killed us. And that started in November 1969 when the Petroleum Decree was enacted. Now, it was talking about what about other minerals? The other minerals could not kick in because it began with petroleum and we stuck to it. So specifically, I'm saying that if we do not return to the law that make our economy to grow from 1955 thereabout to 1969.
Sir, if I may just interject for a second, if you can just round up with what that law is, because I don't know if others have kind of lost, so that we can focus on what that law is and how to get it back if that's what's really helping our economy. Yes.
Essentially, the law was that resources of a sub-nationality, of a region, or of a state, as we call it now, essentially belong to it. They gave some out, but it wasn't substantial. That was the law. Up till November 69, then it started changing. They had the Petroleum Decree, they had the Minerals Act, and what that did was to nationalize the economy. And since we nationalized the economy, we've been going down.
All right. So essentially, is to go back to resource control. States or regions should be allowed to control their regions, their resources.
Yes, but I want to explain what it does. I don't explain what it does. What that does is that it forces...
Okay, briefly, sir, so that we can get to other people.
Yes, I'll be brief. It forces each state to develop.
Okay.
Whether you're in the north, south, all of us were developing, whether northern Nigeria, southern Nigeria. But when we started doing revenue sharing, then we started going down. If there's no responsibility, the sub-nationalities will not develop and the nation will not develop. You cannot grow from the tree top, you grow from the roots up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jumoke, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Can we have Ms. Dr. Charles Obi? Go ahead, sir, with your comments or questions.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's unfortunate the barrister attorney has left. I had specific questions for him because the last thing I heard him say was that the government should take over, and which was it was interesting hearing that from him. I would say I don't know why he would say that. I think I would align with the last comment, the last statement the last speaker made, which is in terms of resources in the country, there is no reason whatsoever why, for example, right now, because we've mostly relied on oil, there's no reason why the states that helped, or the regions, or the cities, or the communities that contributed to the oil resources in our country, they are probably one of the poorest in our country right now. Take, for example, the Ogoni people in the Niger Delta. Take, for example, the people in Warri area of Delta State, or some other regions in River State. These are the people who contributed a lot. Their lands have been taken from them, their resources have been taken from them, and they have been relegated to the backdrop of our country. Now, I know it was Falana was one of those people who came out when PBAT became president. I said to Nigerians, hey, all of you, take it easy. Let's be patient with him. It's been almost 2 years now. It would have been very interesting to hear where he stands now, after almost 2 years of being patient with him. I personally, just my personal opinion, I don't have a problem with us talking, as long as we have what the question is, what are we talking about? What are we discussing? Are we strategizing, or we're just talking for talking's sake? I think that the challenge we have, at least again, this is my personal observation, is that if we don't agree on a particular subject, on a particular topic, it doesn't make sense to the rest of us. The reality is problem solvers usually come together and say, what is the problem we are trying to solve? And then they start to suggest or recommend solutions to solving that problem. And then it has to be discussed or analyzed as the case might be. And then people will have to come to an agreement, or otherwise known as a consensus. It doesn't mean we all have to agree, but to a certain extent, most of us have to say, you know what, this one makes more sense than what we were thinking. And as a result, we have a solution that can work, and we can agree on that and then start to move forward. Until we get to that point, we're just going to be like people who are just beating about, just talking for the sake of talking. Because the reality is, because most of us are, I think majority of our people believe in the sayings of the wise. Without a vision, the people perish, and we've got to have that. And finally, I would say, for those of us who are always saying, let's go back, we have to think back to where we were. What was the population of our country? What was the world like? The world has changed. We are now in the 21st century where AI is ruling the world, technology is ruling the world. So we have to put that in context with whatever solutions we're trying to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I can have Pastor Funke Awolowo, please.
Good evening, thank you. I want to appreciate African leadership for what we're doing, and I really want to appreciate Mr. Barrister Falana for what he's doing, because when this book was launched, I expected more people to come out and confront IBB for those things that happened in the past. And I saw him on TV yesterday explaining, because they were asking him if he was within his rights, to actually take him to court. The first step for redefining, for confronting, is making him, allude to certain facts, which is this Mr. Falana appears to be a lone voice, because they spoke to, was it Mumuni Abiola the other day? He was saying, yes, he knew that his father won. And, it's like, it's all forgiven, forgetting that there are many lives that changed by what happened. I remember many years ago, the same, I think my grandmother and many of these women, Mama Mogaji, that's Tinubu's mother, went to meet Babangida to release, was it Gani Fawemi at that time, because Gani was literally dying because he was defending MK Abiola and everything, and that led to a lot of sickness afterwards. And Mama did tell us that when she went there, she understood why some of these people hold on to power. He said the floor was like glass, and it was like, so you see, there was a reason he held on to power. And the reason is given in the book, is not so apparent, and everything. And there's a lot that Nigeria lost out on. Like somebody said, it changed the trajectory of growth and development in Nigeria because somebody who won. And we're seeing the same thing cascade again into Nigeria. And we're seeing just one person standing up, because yes, we are discussing right now, but the only person out there that has spoken publicly, aside from Falana, I think, was it Farotimi also spoke. But you see, the only person that is taking him to court. And what's first of all, we need maybe more of us to sign up and join up with him in the public space. Because what will happen is that they're going to mock his attempt if he doesn't have the backing of the people. You see, and that's the first step. We have to make concerted efforts to oppose what Babangida is trying to say. First of all, he's saying he has no apologies. Somebody died, not just somebody, people died. And somebody is writing a book years after. Remember what happened in Germany when years after, the people of the Jews, they stood up and took them to the International Court of Justice. Germany is still paying. If they catch anybody till date, they will pay. It's time to make these people pay. I don't care how long this happened. They must bring him to book, and he must apologize, because what do you want to do with an 80-year-old or 80-something-year-old man in prison? But he must allude to the fact that he did wrong by the people, by Nigeria, and even by democracy. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think it goes back to what Pastor Sonny laid out earlier on, that at what point do we as citizens begin to rise up to take power, to take this into our hand, build that critical mass to say enough is enough, whether it is occupying, I think what you said, that the House of Assembly, occupying that House of Assembly. But even in this IBB's case, there isn't enough outrage that someone has redefined what justice is. Someone has redefined what right and wrong is. And we are all clapping and applauding those that are supporting. At this point, I think we should have boycott of all the people that donated to his book, whether it's Dangote products or whoever it is. This is where we need to start really making people pay, that there are consequences for their action and decisions. And I don't know that we are outraged enough. We kind of take this back seat. Oh, all is forgiven, all is well. It is not well. At what point do we really rise up to say we can't have this anymore? And it's just as little hit them in their pocket. Boycott is a language everyone understands. How can you contribute to, I don't even know that IBB is a president. Who defines him as president? That he's going to now have a library. And 17 billion naira has been contributed by the so-called elite. And we are all clapping, sharing books. We have to do better. That's just my own passion and commitment to this one. So thank you, Pastor Funke. I'm with you on that. Can we have Auntie Yemisi, please go ahead, and then we'll have Mr. Godwin or Dr. Godwin. Go ahead, Auntie. We've asked you to unmute.
Yes, I've unmuted. Thank you so much. Secretary Stefano is not around. One would really like to have addressed his issues, because I was watching his program on politics, Sunday politics channels. Was it yesterday? And I was, it brought tears to my eyes, because it evoked things that were buried, because people like me lived through it with Beko and others, the horrors of that time. And after that, I talked to other members of the family so that I can do some, interventions, also take some time to heal the trauma that we all went through during that period. What I saw at that launch was a diminished and sorry side of a weakened former dictator. I don't know why it evoked the emotion in people that he looked, pathetic. And it also illustrated the victory of democracy and democratic principles, because those who tormented were the ones who were actually the Lord and Master in that space. Now, I have nothing against those who want to hold him accountable in court, that is the right of those who feel sufficiently agreed to now take it through the legal process. I'm also wanting us to look at how someone like Mandela dealt with the kind of cruelty and horrors that were visited on Black Africans, and how we embrace hope for a future that will never witness the horror of the Babangida years. I'm concerned about the actions of the politicians, because they're always cause and effect. What gave rise to the military taking over in that period? And I am concerned that we must create the environment. The energy must be to create an environment where we never witness such the horror of those years. And I'm currently concerned about the actions of current day politicians that led the military to rule in Nigeria. The happenings in Rivers State, Osun, Lagos State are very dangerous. They're warning lights. And the results are blinking in Burkina Faso and Niger. And I think we really need to pay attention to how we handle this process, this current period, so that we do not allow those who are very, very ready to take care of, to take advantage of our anger and our outrage to now cause total chaos and thousands of years of us reverting to those years of darkness. So that's my position on that. Now, for us to have actions and strategies to go forward, I am very interested in ensuring that whatever we decide, it must be because the Nigerian people want it. The Nigerian people are not interested in a few plutocrats, aristocrats, something-crats, elite group talking for them. The youth are no longer sympathetic or empathetic about the leadership of this country. They do not trust the elites. They do not trust any group. So until we are able to have their voice, maybe conduct a poll of what Nigerians specifically, there are things that are going wrong here and there, but what it is, are you going to go to National Assembly to ask for? You have to be specific. It has to be time bound, and you must say that you are going to fight for it until it is done. So a lot of work needs to be done to elucidate, to garner the thoughts of Nigerians. You cannot shave Nigerians' head behind their backs. If you want to fight for them, you must find out what it is they want you to fight for. And so conducting a poll, let's talk about how we get the voice of polls or town hall or whatever it is. Those are the strategies I want to be talking about. How we get the Nigerians themselves to say, this is what we want. So if they want it, they will fight for it. And so we can prioritize what those needs are and make sure that we carry them along, that they are actually at the forefront. You can't say end bad governance. Which part of bad governance do you want to end? Yeah. There's so many other, so many items that are not going right. So let us have that conversation. That's my contribution, to get the voice of the Nigerian people to say, this is what this particular thing, say we don't want it. And then we, the elites, can get behind them, not talking for them. Let them do the fight while we're there to support them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Godwin Egiamuse. Go ahead, sir.
Unmute me. Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to appreciate the African Leadership Group for doing this, and also the Learned Sam for highlighting, key issues when it comes to leadership and poverty of our people. I want to say that what has changed from the First Republic and what we have today is that the leaders, especially political leaders, has replaced sacrifice with greed and entitlement. I liken the situation of Nigeria to a wealthy man with 10 children. And if two of those children have succeeded one way or the other to corner all the resources to themselves, the 8 obviously will be in a situation where the average Nigerian are today. I'm not sold to this issue of, local control for our resources and all that. I usually give an example. Therefore you see youth leaders in communities behaving, especially with local resources, they are not quite different from our national leaders. NDDC, for instance, also have, got some resources for the locality, but we do know what it is today with the elites involved. The solution, therefore, for me lies with the people, the ordinary Nigeria. And those of us who therefore seek to bring about change must deliberately act to connect with the ordinary Nigeria. In most cases, we'll be speaking above them. We talked about ideological policies, talk about so much that they do not even understand. With due respect to all of us, to a large extent, most of the mobilization or demonstration we have in this country, because we do not link up, connect with the ordinary Nigeria, in most cases, most of this protests become protests of the activist, by the activist, and for the activist. But if therefore we want to achieve much, we must connect with ordinary Nigeria. How do we do that? I think it's even easier for us to do, looking at the level of poverty we have today. We need to speak to issues that affect them directly. A good example for me, what is lacking, is the fact that there are two core social services. Of course, I could add the third one, water. Today, the average Nigerian are struggling, in some of them go into debt to pay school fees in private institutions. Today, educational services are provided up to 65% or more by the private sector. And therefore, one of the reasons that strengthens poverty in Nigeria today is that ordinary Nigeria do not have enough government school, as we had the opportunity when we were young, and therefore they pay so much. The same for health. People pay out from this thing to be able to access health. I think many of us do know that most of the young people today do not understand what we call pipe-borne water. All what they know is borehole. But when we were growing up, that was how you get treated water to the people. So these are things we should be talking about. It affects these people, and it is easier to connect with them, able to get their support, and whatever is done. Therefore, if we're to march to whatever we march to, you do not need to sing. People will definitely join the march towards changing Nigeria. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Can I have Tony Nnamdi? We have quite a few hands up, and we are coming up. It's already 6 o'clock, and we have about 27 more minutes. So can I ask that you keep it to 2 minutes, please, Mr. Tony Nnamdi or Dr. Tony?
Yeah, thank you. No titles at all. Glad to be present at the meeting. I had very short notice, and unfortunate that Mr. Falana had to, move. Happy that one witness to what we have done across, many years to get to the root of this problem is present in the House, EMC Ransom Ketie. I salute you at the EMC because she was present between 2004, 5, and 6, when faced with these same questions we are now trying to answer. We had to gather the victims of the Nigeria that is now upside down. And I agree with the first 3 speakers who talked about the reason we got to where we are, because you like doctors who do, you begin with diagnosis of the symptoms you're seeing, then the prescription, and then the treatment in that order. And a cost-effect analysis will bring you to what went wrong and therefore what you could do. It is the imposition of the unitary constitutional arrangements on Nigeria by the class of 1966, which Babangida managed to gather a few days ago. In those 33 years, between 1966 and 1999, they plunged us into this totally unworkable unitary arrangements. What then do we do about it? because this unitary constitutional arrangement is 100% responsible for every single thing we lament now. Corruption is instituted in black and white, because in section 606C of your constitution, the government does not owe the citizen any obligation at all for welfare, for security, for every good thing of life that the constitution listed in chapter 2. Then it gives, this same constitution gives the spare key of the treasury to the heads of the executive branch by the appropriation provisions. It's written in black and white by the people who are doing the looting we're talking about now. So there's immunity for them too. They have no obligation to you. They have the spare key to the treasury to take everything in the treasury, and they have immunity in section 308. And even the question of what Falana has suggested he could do to Babangida going to court, I'm sorry to report to all of you that that remedy is not available, because section 6, subsection 6D of that constitution offers a 33-year period of immunity for everything that went wrong in Nigeria between the 15th of January in 1966 and the 29th of May in 1999. No court has jurisdiction to listen to any such thing. And Babangida's malfeasance happened in 1993. And so there will be no court that can receive that complaint because that constitution is in place. And so what do we do to reverse this situation? That's what we have done across the last many years, to distill what the problem is, to distill what the solution should be, and therefore rally those who are the victims of that situation into what needs to be done. What needs to be done in one line is to move ourselves by whatever means we find to do away from this unitary arrangement into a federal arrangement if we still have a union, because it is our signature that this class of citizens, that the military implanted at the preamble of that constitution to say, we the people solemnly resolve to live in this manner as defined by this constitution. The cost of governance we cry about. How did we come about 812 governments that we have to finance every month? 36 states, 7 follow government areas, and all the bureaucracies that surround them. Where will you find the money to pay for school or food for anybody, since the constitution already asks them to stay by themselves while you manage your own affairs? And then if we now know that it is that constitutional arrangement that brought us to where we are, and that we need to depart from it, the next question is how? There's a proposition on the table that can solve this problem in 90 days if we will listen to ourselves. But we may choose not to listen until the place goes up in smoke. I'm speaking to you from a location that is just a walking distance from the locus of the problem. That is where the people who are holding us hostage for 59 years, since 1966 is 59 years now, that they are holding us hostage. They've become the owners of Nigeria by taking over the ownership. You can't be talking about resource control when the ownership is listed in black and white in that constitution as belonging to a dubious federal government, that an illicit federal government that emerged from the collapse of our federation. When those 5 constitutions collapsed in 1966-67, our federation died. These soldiers of fortune hijacked the entire thing, documented it as their own, and have been taking us to election every 4 years to renew our damnation. And so our prescription is, can we pull back a little, like South Africans did from our apartheid constitution, to say we cannot continue to pretend we have a democracy and continue to go to election every 4 years under the constitution, because the winner will swear to defend and uphold that constitution. Therefore, we'll still have 812 governments, 36 states. Therefore, we'll still have 68 items of exclusive leads on that constitution. You are not going to get any electricity as long as that constitution is there. You're not going to get any security as long as that constitution is there. So if we realize all of this, our prescription is that...
May I ask you to, if you could round up with your recommendation in 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yes, our recommendation is that we can mobilize the victims of these terrible situations, whether you complain about the killings going on, or the corruption that you see, or the impunity that travels all around. We can mobilize them to reject going to further national elections under this constitution. And whether we do or we don't, there are people who are already working at something that will cause the kind of disruption that the whole world will cry about, because it's now going to have collateral damages in human. There's something we forget in all of what we're debating about Babangida. What consumed Moshood Abiola was in committing to topple that constitution. He said he will not govern for one day with that constitution that Murtala Mohammed imposed in 1975. That was what took his life. Every other thing is because the caliphate that imposed it wanted to have it in place by all means. Abiola said
if we allow you, you give us a full lecture.
This could be another 30 minutes. So
Yeah,
thank you. So
Dr. Ayo,
what I
no,
hear
I'm just saying we could do without going to election and solve this problem before we proceed. That would be my
thank you
my
very
line.
much. Thank you.
Excellent.
Dr. Ayomi Kelly, please go ahead. If we could keep it to two minutes or less, we would appreciate that. So we can take
Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. I promise I only spend 1 minute. And I appreciate this gathering. I thank you so dearly for putting this together. I hear all our speakers. And the question is, where do we go from here? Another question is, we have about 100 people on this platform. Are we ready to sacrifice and put ourselves together to make this a reality? Productivity in Nigeria is necessary right now, not even the government. And if we are going to the government, we have to have tangible things in our hand. Dr. Nnamdi, thank you for your explanation about the current government. We can sue Babangida right this minute if we will have the credible people on board. So my question goes, can we, on this platform, sincerely put ourselves together and invest in our youth, both spiritual investment, physical investment, financial investment? That is it.
Thank you very much. Please get engaged with the Africa Leadership Group. We have a youth arm that we're working with and so many other things that you'll be happy with. Mr. Matthew Ibadin, please go ahead, sir. Or Dr. Matthew. We've asked you to unmute. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next, and then when you're ready, let us know. Dr. Akin Fakunda, please go ahead. We've asked you to unmute.
Okay. Thank you very much, Akin Fakunda. I already appeared on Arise TV last Sunday. I posted the link on this chat box. My views are clear. 2-3 things. Can ALG write a letter of solidarity with Femi Falana for him to not to drop his suit against Babangida? Number one. Number two, can we encourage him to fight a suit to reverse all the oil blogs given out to people? That's the source of people stealing money from the public. Each oil blog, they sell it, they collect 40% returns. They don't even go to mine any oil at all. That 40% is also of the windfall that they are getting. Now, when you file a suit, it doesn't mean you win. That suit will heighten consciousness for them to know what are the issues. When the suit is filed, reverse oil block to individual belong to the state. It will throw pebble into the lake, and people will now get aware. Why must somebody have oil block? Why? Why in the country? Why? Number three, ALG, we need to put pressure in the next 1 or 2 months. It's on my talk on Arise News. If we go on to the next election, we have lost 3 years. This year, next year, 2027. We must do all. I support Tony Nadi. Whatever we can do to stop the elections, for them to pause it, so that we can reconfigure Nigeria appropriately. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for honoring time. Appreciate that.
That's the way to make contribution. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, 2,
Thank
3.
you very much,
Boom,
sir.
boom, boom. Appreciate that. Thank you. We should have taken you first. Go ahead, Mr. Oluyinka.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I was just writing down. I'm glad that it sounds as though we are tired. So we've identified Femi Falana, we've identified Dele Farotimi. I think that the Babangida book launch is a weapon for us. They made a mistake that we can hold on to. I think that there should be a press conference against that book launch, a proper physically attended press conference to say Nigerians are not fools, setting the facts straight, possibly. Okay, and then saying this is what has happened, and then build on that. I hear constitutional amendment is critical, and everybody realizes that we can't go into the next elections with this present constitution. We understand that. They started that process about 2 years ago. It's been on pause, and we've experienced different distractions. The constitutional amendment will talk about independence of INEC, independence of the judiciary. We see that the judiciary is now bastardized, conflicting decisions, and then, of course, resource control. So I would suggest, okay, that coalition has been long overdue. Femi Falana is here now that can lead it, and the other people who are suggesting to be a part. That's number one. Number two, then we can start talking about engaging the National Assembly on a practical timetable for constitutional amendment, as we said before the next elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adedapo, please go ahead. Mr. or Miss, I'm not sure. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Thank you so much. I just want to, I think Dr. Akin Fakunda has just raised the issue or give a direction to what I also want to say, but I just want to add to this. I think because during the 2023 election, some of us were doing the campaign and also of that. Some of us have been raising issues and said that that election should not hold because until we have a new constitution in Nigeria or a proper restructuring, that election should not hold. Because if the way they had the election, we saw the outcome, and then we saw where we are now. And if they're also planning again to hold another election in 2027, and we still participate in that election again, we are the one that's actually giving them all this power that they have. I think all we must do as civil liberties organization, is to say there's no election in Nigeria until there is a proper restructuring and nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Mr. Matthew to unmute again. I've asked you, and if you don't unmute, I'll ask Professor Grange, and that will be the last hand that we take before we start to round up. Okay. Okay, Mr. Matthew. Okay. Professor Grange, please go ahead and unmute. I've asked you to unmute. Go ahead, Matthew.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I first put up my hand, then I put it down, and now put it up again. My own little contribution is this. I believe that we are now on the right path to try and solve the problem. However, we still have the issue of trust of the people. So to do anything, we need to let the people know why we are doing it. What are they concerned about? Electricity, health, education, security, and, you name it, agriculture, food. So if we take those and go to them and say, look, we know how you are suffering. This is what we want to do to try and reduce that suffering, if not eliminate the suffering. We have to speak to the people at the grassroots before we start, doing anything at all that we're doing. So how we do that is another issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Pastor Sonia, I'm going to ask you a question, and I think you can tie this up nicely for us. So this redefining Nigeria, what does it really mean to us as a people? I hear we've all spoken and we come back, whether it's restructuring, but there's something I haven't really heard. I haven't heard our own role and our own responsibility as citizens in redefining Nigeria. I hear us, classify our rulers as leaders. Again, maybe that's one way to start, really redefining what leaders and rulers are. Maybe that's part of our challenge, because we are equating a lot of these, we are equating attributes of leadership to people that rule over us. So we can start with that. Then the second thing that I hear is how powerless we are to effect change. You try to speak about what we can do as citizens, but I don't hear that outrage and that the pain points. We kind of just like, okay, well, this is where we are. I think it was Pastor Funke that was saying that one of the kids said, Abiola's children said, well, they've forgiven or something to that effect. Can we start with even speaking against those that are supporting Babangida? Can we start with them? Can we start with boycotting their products? Can we take those kind of stands? Because if we're not, because we're, and then someone also mentioned sacrifice. What are we willing to give up? Is it that we as Nigerians are not really ready to sacrifice? Our convenience is more important to us than this change that we keep talking about.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. And in bringing it home, I really want to appreciate everybody that's taking time to contribute to what we are talking about. We really wished we had Femi Falana, SAN, to complete this session with us. But when we talk about the ability to hold government accountable, I think the civil society organizations have been doing their best. Let me say this. To cause any change in any nation, the middle class must have had enough. They are the real catalyst that can cause a change. The downtrodden cannot really, because they are fighting for just survival. But I think we don't have a consensus yet of the middle class. We say we want it, but we are not ready to make the sacrifice to make it happen. So we are looking at the downtrodden and saying, after all, me, I can still afford this. I can still travel. So it's not really about me. Those of us on this platform, we think it's not about us, or at least that's what we believe. Life is difficult, but we are getting by. And so the middle class, we have to have that serious elite consensus and ready to deprive ourselves of certain things. If not, somebody mentioned, one of the contributors said, we'll have somebody like a Mao. I don't know, he suggested that somebody who wasn't an elite, who was a peasant, somebody you call a talakawa. If the change rises from there, then it will consume us, even the middle class. And it's happening in Nigeria. If the Boko Harams and the terrorists and the people, that is their own way of protesting against a bad government and a bad system. All these things started with protest. And if we allow those people to fester, one day they will take over. They have taken over local governments. All they need to do now is take over one state, and they impose their own rule, and they take over second state, and they can do it. So if we allow the change to come from that angle, it will be challenging for all of us. What can we do? Is the same thing we have been saying. How much are we ready to sacrifice other than talking? Now we can organize. Sometimes your money can do it for you. We need proper organization. The last time they had an End Bad Governance strike in Nigeria, the government did what they did. And I had Anti-MEC saying that we must demand for something specific if we go to sit and occupy. There were specific demands, ma. The people wanted a reversal of the fuel price. They wanted a reversal of the exchange rate policy that brought us into this mess, electricity tariff. These were 3 double whammies that totally destroyed us. First of all, we had no lights, okay? And the fuel that we were using to manage lights was raised up. And then the light that they weren't giving us, the tariff went up. And we are an import-dependent nation. Exchange rate went up. So everything was against us. So their demands were very clear. And there's enough to demand. We won't just say end bad governance. There is a lot specific demands that were made. And there are so many more we can make. So when we say we don't want, so when we are occupying anything, there will be specific demands. So to be honest, the civil societies are pushing the charge. I see this young man, what's this boy's name? The activist who is always having the clash with the police people.
Showore.
Showore is always out there. He's angry against the system. And that is the way he's expressing his own whatever. Angry. He has suffered so many things personally. So the choice for us, really, we are many on this platform. We can work in collaboration with activists that know how to organize. We need the NLC, Nigerian Labour Congress. We need the student union movement. We need the professional associations. All these people, we have to come together as a block. We are the people that can hold. So the NMA, the MBA, the group of architects, and all the other professional organizations, Nigerian Union of Teachers, and all this class of people. The issue is who will put all these people together under what umbrella? And Tinubu is weakening all these organizations and associations one by one. NLC, nobody trusts them anymore. You know, when they call you out for a strike, you say, oh, these people will soon collect money and they would, you know, give up the people. So we need a credible person, maybe like a Femi Falana, under an SPCs, get all the other NGOs together.
He's actually back. I think he's back online now. Yes, I see he has entered the room again.
Exactly. So we'll generally just hear him out. If he can, you know, pursue this movement, so if you are hearing me, get all the other NGOs, get all the professional associations like your MBA, NMA, and all the other middle-class professional people. Let us marshal certain demands. Let us prepare for the long haul. Because these people that have had their legs on our neck for years, they will not let go easily. So we must be ready for the long haul. Okay? And then people must be ready to fund it. Because a lot of the people that will be out there, live their livelihood, and all of those things, they need some kind of funding for it. We need to put that kind of pressure. I know people have said so many things, going back to this and that. Who will make them go back? Foreign trips. We hear Natasha talking that she's been removed from certain foreign trips. Do we even know how many foreign trips our senators go for? What are they going abroad to do? What? Just what? To learn how to make laws? Or to, you know, but many of them spend half of their time going abroad. Falana alluded to that. And government people, they go abroad because they collect ESTA code. So we can demand so many things. And if we demand them, we sit on them, ready to wait it out. If every day 100,000 people sit out in front of National Assembly, let them arrest 110,000, they take them away. Tomorrow, another 20,000 replaces them. And we'll continue like that. People are bringing food there. Tie our mouth, you know, no talking. We won't talk to police. We won't talk to anything. Wear our red t-shirt or black t-shirt or any t-shirt, sit down there. If we don't organize to antagonize, we will not get a change. People who are saying we should go back to 1960 and all of that, I know maybe those days we are better, we are few, but these guys will not take us back there. That's the truth. Tinubu was an activist, or partially. Now he has come to power. Look at what he's doing. All the things they said they would do when they were in opposition. Now second term is blocking his head. And the people that are supporting him for second term, when second term comes, they are not stupid. If he tries to do anything that will prevent them from enjoying their own tenure when they come, they will block him. The best time to do anything you want to do is in your first term. Jonathan tried it. He lost out. So, sir, if Mr. Femi Falana is back, I think we would like to hear your concluding thoughts. And maybe you can wrap all this together if you had a few of the things that I said.
We've asked you to unmute, sir. He's in here. I've made him co-host.
Are you sure he's the one? It's just Femi, I see.
Yeah, I think he's the one because when he came in earlier on, his flight should have landed by now.
Okay, maybe he's going through airport formalities, so he can't talk yet. All right, so yeah, go ahead.
You've said, I mean, a lot has been said here, and someone had actually suggested whether it is supporting Femi the suit against Babangida. Someone else had also mentioned whether it's a press conference or coming together as a civil society community to condemn IBB's book and the supporters, whether it's coming together as and I like one point. I think it was Dr. Akin Fakunda that mentioned that about the revoking the oil blocks, and I don't know if it's just the oil blocks, but the national assets, national resources that are in individuals, that are under individuals' control. Maybe that's a good way for us to start, because why should national assets be under one individual or individuals' control? So those are some of the things that we really need to seriously look at, how we make those changes. I think I've asked Mr. Falana to unmute if he's the one, but that's not happening. So maybe I can also just give some announcements about ALG. I put a link for you to join us as an organization in the chat. It's an interest form that you can fill out, complete. We will have your contact information, and they will send you information about what we do as an organization. Someone talked about the youth empowerment or preparing the youth for leadership. That's one of the things that we do here as well. Under our School of Leadership and Governance, we encourage our youth on what it is to be responsible, ethical, and accountable leaders. We also have the Itwa Olajide Igodalo Mentorship Program, where we also mentor the youths, or we pair them with responsible, ethical, and accountable leaders to mentor them through the process. So that's ongoing. We have the Feed a Neighbor, Feed a Neighbor, Feed a Nation initiative, which is a tool that we use for our community development. It's one of the things that we use to reach the grassroots, go into communities. We are giving them a little bit of something, whether it's rice, gari, beans, palm oil, but use that opportunity to also educate them on what their civil responsibilities are. And then we use that also to kind of assess the needs of that community and encourage them on how to participate in governance, whether it's reaching out to their local government chairman, just seeing what the needs are and how they can also serve as peer pressure group to encourage good governance in their locality. So there are a lot of things that we're trying to do, and I use the word trying to do, but we know that we can't do this on our own. We need all hands on deck. And this conversation that we have here every Thursday, it's not just a conversation. It's part of education. It's part of informing. It's part of arming us with the information that we need to be able to effect the changes that we are looking for. So we are here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Next week, we have Dele Farutimi that is going to be our guest speaker on the platform. So please join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to thank everyone for being part of this conversation today, and to say that on behalf of all those that spoke and all those that listened, we promise to engage Femi Falana and see if he's ready to spearhead this movement, and let's see what we can do, whether it is the suggestion being made by Dr. Akin Fakunda or all the other suggestions. Indeed, I think we need a broad coalition, and we've been talking about that, and we've been trying to put a coalition together to really sort of ginger this movement, and let's get close to some action. we are still on that journey, and we hope that we'll be able to get there someday. So really, on behalf of Pastor Itua, who is not able to join again now, and all of us at NLS, Nigerian Leadership Series, we thank all of you for being part of this program again today. Enjoy the rest of your evening and week. See you again next Thursday. God bless you all. Thank you.
And we have the Ghana Leadership Series tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have the Ghana Leadership
We are happy
Series
to
tomorrow.
announce to you all also that we have started the GLS, which is the Ghana Leadership Series. It's a bi-weekly event, and we have also started the Kenyan Leadership Series, which is also a bi-weekly event. And, our plan is to spread it across all of Africa, starting with Nigeria. We've been running Nigeria now for about 4 years. We've just started with Ghana, and we're moving over we have started with Kenya as well. So please, we'll send the flyers out through the usual channels. If you are able, join us on those platforms and hear the issues going on in other African countries as well. Let us know what are their issues and how they are tackling it, and we'll all be part of that. Thank you all very much. Jumoke?
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening. See you same time next week. And please share the information about this platform with your contact. We would appreciate your support in any way that you can. And one more thing, I don't know if Albert is on. School of Leadership, we're starting our PM training, Project Management Fundamentals next week. I think so far we have like 110 registered. So we're excited about that. That's our biggest class so far. And we would also be rolling out our Citizens Responsibility course, I believe in April. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you all very much. God bless you. Have a good evening and continue to pray for Nigeria.
All right. Thank you all. Marcella, Washington, we can see you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I miss all of you. God bless you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you.
I hope Trump is treating you well.
Well, just want to say that we're happy. We just need accountability. You know, he's a particular character, but we need accountability. There's a lot of lost money and disorganization that needs to be settled.
I agree with you.
A lot of money.
Afolabi, you found a supporter.
Lucille, when I am silent, you just keep wanting to draw me back in.
Okay, don't worry.
At DJT, yes.
Thank you all very much,
let me
everyone.
With you. Isn't this what you're all talking about? Everybody's talking about accountability. This is not what you want in Nigeria.
Yes, that's right.
So what is everybody? You want accountability, but when somebody pushes to make an omelet, you have to break eggs. I'm sorry.
All right.
It's going to help y'all too.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you guys for putting this up.
Absolutely. Thank you, my brother. Now me find trouble. I withdraw my question.
Don't withdraw it. I do not accept you to withdraw it. I will still phone you later, Pastor Sonny. I will still phone you later.
Are you guys all in Nigeria?
Most people are, but a lot of people are also outside Nigeria. A lot.
Okay.
It's about 50-50 really, yeah.
Because I am outside Nigeria.
Whereabouts are you, sir?
I'm in US.
Oh, you're in US.
So am I.
Okay, very good. But you come home often, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I do business in Nigeria.
Oh, fantastic. It's been going well?
So far, so good.
Good.
Great. We like that. Get more people to bring dollars back home here and invest in Nigeria.
We tried our best, even though it's not easy.
Yeah, that's the way it is. We keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep it accountable. We'll come.
You know, one thing, I didn't have time to speak, but one thing I would really, really encourage us to